Good evening. My name is Chair Ritter, and I am actually bringing the meeting to order for the Parks and Recreation Commission. Mr. Fisher, would you please do the roll call?
Let the record show all commissioners are present except Commissioner Quinn.
Thank you. For those that can, please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Fisher, do we have any special presentations and proclamations?
There are none tonight.
Thank you. I'd like to start with oral communications. How many oral communications do we have?
We have one speaker slip for oral communications, Nancy D.
Great, thank you.
If you look at available stats on meeting our parks goals, it looks incredibly rosier on Parks Master Plan and Facilities Plan charts and maps than our general plan defines. But gaining needs assessment information requires sorting through many pages of documents, whereas looking at a color-coded map for quick reference should give accurate information, but absolutely does not in this circumstance. Could you please see to it that this conflicting data gets corrected? And curiously, our Parks Master Plan that was updated in 2016 is now counting private facilities, school facilities, and libraries in our inventory of available open space parks and recreation amenities we provide our citizens. Years ago, our plan reflected only what the city of Encinitas provided in public parks availability and recreation opportunities. Our recreation facilities plan map, shown in our general plan, erroneously shows Indian Head Canyon as a community park, even though it is designated open space preserve in that same document in text, the EUST parcel on Quail Gardens Drive as a neighborhood park, the Botanical Gardens and Carltus-owned golf course as special use parks, but our own definition refers to them as regional parks, specifically not to be considered as community parkland, and the privately owned YMCA Sports Park as a community park. Plus, our 2016 Parks Master Plan, while considering these incorrectly categorized locations to practically satisfy our needs requirements, still states, I quote, with a relatively high population density when compared to other similar GRASP communities in total population, Encinitas' score of 55 ranks lower in the list of similar communities. This would indicate that while in general the level of service is high, there are potentially greater numbers of people using the parks and facilities and therefore a need for higher level of service. And it goes on to say, and I quote, the GRASP index does not factor in population density. However, when you look at only the charts and maps in the study of our parks level of service, they are quite misleading, and the reality of our inventory is completely misrepresented by this quick reference. Many of our sports fields have overlays, and of course, a baseball team can't be playing on the same field as a soccer team at the same time, and the school fields are substandard according to these findings. This master plan continues by recommending more off-leash dog areas and more skate park features due to high demand and the interests of our local population, not to mention that since that time, we have experienced a pickleball craze and pressure for courts. We do not have any surplus parkland. We have additional needs and an even higher population than when these analyses were done. As a former commissioner myself, I am a strong parks advocate and recognize the need for L7 absolutely to be saved as parkland and developed into a community park in its entirety and made available to serve the existing community and hundreds of new residents slated to move in within walking distance. We have a great shortage of community parks and amenities. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And that completes our oral communications. Moving on to any changes in the agenda.
And there are no changes to the posted agenda.
All right, we have two meetings for approval of minutes. The first one being our regular commission meeting in September
on the 17th. May I have a motion to approve that regular meeting minute?
Throw a motion out.
So Commissioner Hanson
Second.
provided a motion. Great.
And the September 17th minutes are approved.
All right, fantastic. We also have one other meeting minutes to approve. It's our September 24th park tour that we did. May I have a motion to approve the minutes, please?
I'll motion.
We'll do Commissioner Hanson motions, and then
I'll second.
fantastic.
And the September 24th minutes are approved.
Excellent. All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda. This is our first action item. It's the city property at 634 Quail Gardens Drive. This is a continuation of an agenda item that we started in the September 17th commission meeting. Since that meeting, the commission has also visited the site on September 24th during our park tour to see the land and to hear additional comments from the public. We also had the opportunity of meeting Oliver Pratt, who is a young man who's been working quite hard in raising funds, actually thousands of dollars so far, for building the park. So it was a pleasure to meet him in person. Basically, this particular action item is City Council directed. We have two parts. The first part that the City Council is asking us to consider is, should the land be used as a park? And the second part of the City Council direction for us to make a recommendation on is, should the $100,000 donation that has been generously proposed by Mr. Johnson be accepted by the city in exchange for naming rights and some park restrictions with regards to it being a passive park with some dedicated plants and amenities. At this point, I'd like to go ahead and open up the floor to some public comments. So let's do that, and then we'll follow up with the discussion with the commission.
Okay, we have 10 speaker slips for this item. First will be Glenn Johnson.
Good evening, members of the commission and staff. Yes, I'm the person who is offering to purchase naming rights for the park on Quail Gardens Drive, and I think enough has been said about it already. It's an area that needs a quiet park. We need parks. It might connect to the trail system, and your job maybe is to decide what kind of park could go there. But I'm visualizing taking the $100,000 and putting in some parking spaces, putting in perhaps a structure such as a gazebo, and putting in as many native trees as we can afford, and leaving the space of the park, the open space, as pretty much wild space, so that wildlife such as mice and rats can go there. And the trees should provide home for birds such as hawks and owls to control the wildlife, so it's a kind of a balanced ecosystem. And the details of this are yet to be worked out, because you have the authority, and I'm just making an offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. And I would like to just preface, since we do have a large number of speakers tonight, that considering some of the responses that we've heard from the commissioners from the last meeting, I think that we have a pretty strong support on the commission for it being a park. So I think that part of it, I think we feel pretty strongly on. And in that respect, for those that would like to express their support for the park, you're certainly welcome to during your 3 minutes. One thing that I would be interested in hearing from the public is the second half of what we have to consider, and that is whether we consider the donation with some of the restrictions with regards to some amenities, making it a passive park, and then also including the naming rights. So that is a little stickier situation, and I would love to hear public comment on that, if by chance that you might kind of add that into any public comment that you may be presenting. But I would say that you have commissioners up here who love parks, like to see more parks, and I feel like what we really need to work on is kind of that second half of the city council direction. But with that said, we only have a 2-hour meeting, so if any of you wanted to kind of consolidate, you're certainly welcome to do that, or maybe just keep your comments to a couple minutes. That would be ideal, just to kind of move through that process. That would be great. Could we have our first speaker, please?
Our next speaker is Suzanne Mahoney.
Good evening. My name is Suzanne Mahoney. It's nice to see all of you. I met you, some of you, at the location of where we are hoping to have the park. And Oliver is our grandson. And I know that he was able to make that little meeting, and he was very happy to meet all of you. Unfortunately, he can't be here tonight, so we put together a little video of him, and he's hoping that you guys would like to view that and take into consideration to change this or turn this property into a park. I also would like to thank Glenn, or my neighbor Glenn, for his generous donation that he's willing to give to us to make this park a place for the kids to play and for the neighborhood to enjoy the community and be together. I agree with naming the park after Sally, his beautiful wife. And I also agree with some of the ideas that he has as far as keeping the park fairly a quiet park, but having it be where children can play and the neighbors can get together, walk their dogs, have a picnic, do things like that. I also am in favor of extending the rail trail, or the trail that goes around Quill Gardens up above, into that area. I think that would be wonderful for the community. There are a lot of walkers and people who enjoy that, exercising on that trail in the morning, or all times a day. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Oliver if you haven't met him yet. And he has worked very hard. We're very proud of him. So here he is. Thank you.
Good evening. In case you forgot, my name is Oliver Pratt. I'm 10 years old, a 5th grader at Capri Elementary School, and an Encinitas local. I'm sorry that I can't attend at this meeting because unfortunately I'm out of town right now. I hope you recall my previous request to turn the L7 parcel on Quail Gardens Drive into a community park, not more houses. After being inspired by Mr. Glenn Johnson's $100,000 contribution, in my last speech to our city council leaders, I proudly announced I would donate 100% of sales for my upcycled golf ball business. At that time, I have raised $1,500. Additionally, with the help of my parents, I also launched an online crowdfunding campaign where so many of our community members very generously donated their money towards the collective efforts of a park. As it turns out, I'm not the only one. There are a lot of people in our community that would also appreciate a park, rather than more houses. I understand parks cost a lot of money, so I've been working very, very hard. I stand here today extremely excited to provide the following information. So far, I have raised over $12,000, all of which is to be contributed towards the construction of the future home of the Encinitas Sally Johnson Park. Combine that with Mr. Johnson's donation, we have over $112,000. We, the citizens of Encinitas and neighbors of L7, deserve a park, just as the land was intended to be. Please do right by all of us and these funds, plus the additional funds to come. I'm nowhere near finished to build this park for all of us. Audience, if you would like to contribute, please search my name, Oliver Pratt, on the GoFundMe.com or scan the QR code on the next slide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oliver is certainly a remarkable young man and quite an inspiration. I will want to make sure that we keep any future ones to no more than 3 minutes, and also to limit discussions to just between the speaker and the commission, and no talking back and forth like happened a little bit last meeting. So keep it nice and structured. Let's go ahead and move forward with our next speaker.
Okay, our next speaker is Ellen Burr.
Good evening, Commission. Perhaps I should have spoken earlier in the other comments, but I was here January the 16th, at which time I passed out black and white copies, and half of you were not here at the time, not because you were missing, but because you weren't appointed yet. So I made copies for you, but not copies for the other people who should have them still in their files, like me. This is a report, October 2016, Open Space Master Plan, Parks, Beaches, Trails, and Open Space. And this report, the study was done, it was accepted by the city, and then nothing really happened after that. But if you look at the first 3 pages or whatever, you will see where the number one key issue and request and need is preserve and acquire open space, beaches, and natural areas. And that is what needs to happen with L7. I know, Ross, you now say it's a done deal with that, but I just want to make sure that if for some reason you don't think it could be a park, it should absolutely just be open space. It was used with park funds. It is designated to be a park space, so it should be a park space. And I would say, you know, I see Harbaugh trail signs all over the place. I don't know who Harbaugh is or was in the Bears quarterback, but that's another story. So please, if it requires forming a foundation with her name in it, then that can be done. Let's not put up roadblocks that are not necessary just because it doesn't cross the T or dot the I, because obviously we haven't been doing that in the past. So please, make it happen. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Maria Ardance, and she did receive a time donation of an additional 3 minutes.
Well, it sounds like we're not doing the donations, so that's cool. I mean, I don't even know what to say because I'm really excited to hear you guys are intending to do the parkland, so I feel like half of this is moot, but I'll just say it anyway. Anyway, here today to again speak in support of L7 being created as parkland. Absolutely agree with it having naming rights go toward Glenn for his late wife Sally. So beautiful. He, you know, initiated this whole thing, and I feel like he's our hero, our community hero, just like Oliver. Maybe we can get a park bench or something named after Oliver. I think that would be awesome. Because he deserves some recognition as well. Anyway, as we know, I mean, this plot of land was purchased in 1998 with parkland funds, city parkland funds, to be a park. So it's always been a park. It should be a park. I'm glad you guys agree with that as well. trying to condense this a little. I went over the metrics with you guys last time. I mean, we're 500 acres deficient in parkland based on the 2024 national parks. No problem. It's all good. We've all been there. Based on the Parks and Recreation Association metrics, we're 500 acres deficient. So we need this parkland. I mean, surplus land couldn't have been further from the truth when it was considered that when it was voted to be surplus land a year ago. That was nonsense. And honestly, I think they all regretted their vote when they did that. Obviously, we're here today for that reason. They agreed, get this back on the board as parkland. So I'm glad they recognized they made a mistake, because a lot of times people don't get the chance to make up the messes they've created. This time we actually do. So that's fantastic. And I hope, obviously, you guys support that as well. Near the park, we've obviously got the tremendous support. I thought Oliver had only gotten to 5,000 so far, but clearly the kid's a rock star with another 12 on top of the 5. So that entrepreneurial spirit is just amazing in that young man. So go Oliver. Already talked about all of this. Last week at the city council meeting, we had been talking about the state historical districts for there's a state designation for historical districts, and the council agreed that that would be a great idea to pursue. They couldn't consider Quail Gardens Drive part of that. It just has to be part of the coastal corridor, what they're permitting or proposing, because it has to be a walkable. But they did agree that Quail Gardens Drive would be a fantastic location for a local designation. So we can't do that whole state historical district and get the funding from the state, but they are going to also try to do local districts. So knowing that they are going to pursue potentially Quail Gardens Drive with Eckie Ranch, Quail Botanical Gardens, the Heritage Museum, having a park literally dead center in the middle of this walkable local district would be, excessively appropriate. So just one more reason, right? It connects with the hiking trails. It would connect a local historical district, give residents and visitors alike a place to sit during their visit in this local historic district. So it's just everything about it makes sense. Please preserve what always has been a park. So what else? And then, again, our wildlife, like Len said, we're literally losing all of our last bits of open space. We were very active on Quail Gardens Drive for wildlife, and we're being robbed of every last little bit. I don't know how all these creatures are going to survive. They're like I told you last time, they're just pouring into our neighborhoods and killing our animals because they have nowhere else to go. It's not their fault. You can't blame them for killing all our cats and dogs, but that's what's happening. So please don't take more space from them, because once it's gone forever. So thank you for acknowledging that this would be a great place to return to parkland. I do appreciate it. The whole community does. Thank you. Thank you. And then, side note, since I seem to have more time, which is shocking for once, as far as it's going to cost, right? It's going to cost a lot of money to get, maybe not if it's a parkland. But anyway, I guarantee you there's going to be residents in Encinitas Ranch who are going to be willing to donate plants, right? Like if we want to do some type of I don't know what's local to this area, but whatever's local to kind of beautify it. We can all, I guarantee you, I will be involved right in the forefront of getting donations, plants, and then we can get kids involved, digging and planting. They can get their community service hours. This can be a whole community engagement. I think it could be a really special thing. So, and I'd love to help. So, thank you.
Our next speaker is Dick Stern.
Good evening, honorable commissioners. My name is Dick Stern. I'm the president of the Encinitas Ranch Community Association, a homeowners association of 500 homes that adjoins Quail Gardens Drive. Virtually every entry and exit to our community is on Quail Gardens Drive. Our residents, as well as all of the other HOAs and neighborhoods along this narrow road corridor, have watched helplessly as the city has approved over 1,000 housing units to be built between Lucidia Boulevard and Encinitas Boulevard. Little to no attention was given to mitigating the impacts of these housing developments, but we have a great opportunity now to provide some help, and that is through the use of L7 as a city park. The property is designated as a park in the city's general plan and should remain as a park in light of the enormous increase in people moving into these planned housing developments, with only one minor city park, the Los Verdes Park, to address the needs of future residents. While all of the residents of Encinitas Ranch strongly support the need for affordable housing, they also support keeping L7 as a park. The public comment that you have received appears to be unanimous in advocating for L7 as a park. I want to point out that a campaign is underway, as you heard, to solicit additional funding for the park with great results already. The residents who live along Quail Gardens Drive are willing to step up and help with funding. I ask you on behalf of the homeowners in Encinitas Ranch to do what is right for all residents of Encinitas, both present and future, and designate L7 as a park and name it in honor of Glenn's late wife. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Luke Schaefer, and Luke did receive a time donation.
All right. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Luke Schaefer. I am running for District 1 City Council here in Encinitas, and a big part of it is not just because of what's going on with the parks, but it's the high-density requirement that's coming down. This property just happens to put both those in the same crosshairs. And it's just indicative of what was happening, not just here, but across the state, and what's not acceptable. And our own general plan that should be the highest document that we look to represent our citizens, not the state. It states right here under recreation element, right? Because it's not just about L7, it's about future parks, it's about what the housing element is putting on there. The self-realization, the churches, some of the schools have been put on this. So again, I know that's not all you guys, but you guys are one of the stopping forces that could help sway or push the council in the right direction, right? So policy 1.5, provide a minimum of 15 acres of local recreational area for each 1,000 population in the entire community. Right, that's our general plan that says that. The people before us knew that this place, its greatest value was our land because of where we reside. Right? It's a simple math equation that they put together to make sure that we saved what it was that they knew people are going to come after. It's been happening since we founded this place. Does that make sense? So if you do the basic math, that puts us at 62 times 15 equals 930 acres, right? Well, Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts and Development is responsible for 10 miles of streetscape, 82 acres of open space, 153 acres of both developed and undeveloped properties, aka parks, 45 acres of beaches, and 40 miles of trails. So if you do the math, right, you do 82 open space, the 153 parks, the 45 beaches, and 60 miles of trail. That's 340 acres. Subtract 340 from 930, that puts us at 590 deficient. Right, talking to some of the local developers in town, and one of the realtors, we have 7% of our horizontal space available. It's pretty much the rest of what we have should not be built on. And I get that the state is driving down these requirements, but they're quasi-illegal, and there's other things, and there's other ways to fight it, but we need to start fighting it from here, from within first, and it has to start with every single level up into the city council. The reason I'm doing this is not because I have a desire to be in some political growth or political run. It's simply to protect and defend exactly what we have in this town and what we've had. My wife and I talked last night. One of the places that she likes the least in town is over by Santa Fe. I know we're getting slightly off topic, but the fact of the matter is as a child growing up here, that was one of my favorite places because it reminds me I spent all my life going there for school. And it was full of trees. And she talked about it as it's become a concrete jungle over there. And you can see San Diego. You couldn't even see the 7-Eleven when you drove by any time of the day. And now we've forgone all of our ethos of being kind of an old hippie town that allowed us to have the values of being on the ocean, being just people of nature because we lived in nature. We no longer live in nature, we live in a concrete jungle. And we're allowing it by allowing things like this to be overran by state requirements of large developers. And if this council or these commissioners here could actually stand your ground, and if I get elected in November 5th, I will stand my ground there. So I just want to say thank you for your time, and I appreciate everything you guys are doing. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dennis Caden.
I'm so happy to see somebody as tech handicapped as myself. No offense to those guys. It's all right. That's okay. I gave it to you last minute. Good evening, gentlemen. Thanks so much for being here, and ladies. My name is Dennis Caden. I live in Leucadia. I was on the General Plan Ad Hoc Land Use Committee back in 1987 and 88. We put in over 2,000 hours of volunteer time with our committee, and we asked for that 15 acres per 1,000 at the time. And Luke hit the nail on the head. They knew what was coming because we incorporated because we were getting overdeveloped. So that gave us some space to keep Encinitas the glorious, peaceful place that it is. So I just want you to know, so far all the numbers that you've been given have been given as far as what we are right now. But with the housing element, we're going to have plenty of new neighbors. So between the housing element sites and the new construction that's not part of the housing element, we're going to have 2,022 new livable units. That does not include ADUs. So if you take that, the U.S. Census Bureau says per unit averages 2.5 people. That'll be 5,055 new residents coming to enjoy Encinitas as we do. And that means we need 5,000 people times the 15 acres, 5 times 15, comes to 75 future planned acres needed, and we're already way behind. So that's a 22, we need 22% more. What I would ask you tonight is maybe if it would be more speedy, make 2 motions. One to make it a park, and one what you want to do. I mean, it's fine if you name it Sally Johnson Park, but maybe the use, we'll see about that. But if you make it a park, I really feel you should do that tonight. Designate it a park and I almost beg you to do that because we have other things going on in the city right now where if you did that, it would make life a whole lot easier for people in Encinitas. Thank you so much for being here and your service.
Our next speaker is Rachel Graves.
Hi there. My name is Rachel. I appreciate you all being here. I appreciate that we have a Parks and Rec Commission, especially in light of our council putting us all in a position where we even have to be discussing this. Our city was incorporated in 1986 for the reason that Dennis said, that we wanted control over our city. We didn't want the county telling us what to do. We surely shouldn't want the state telling us what to do. But our council should never have gone above our general plan and above the will of the people and discussed with attorneys on how to turn this park land into surplus land and into housing. That should never have happened. And I'm glad that now you will be able to weigh in on that. That was not fair to our citizens, and it especially isn't fair to the people who, like Dennis, worked really hard to make these rules, and the people like whoever was on council in 1998. Can't remember who voted for it. I think Chuck Duvivier might have been one of them. They purchased this land with funds for a park, and they thought that that was actually going to happen. We've had this problem with perpetuity land in the past, and I hope that we kind of put a stop to that. I urge you to all vote to make it parkland tonight. And I do realize that you have talked about it maybe, but it is important to always hear from the citizens because, as we all know, there's a Brown Act, so you don't know for sure what everyone's going to vote for. So I appreciate you still allowing us to speak since we don't totally know what's going to happen. As far as funding, I think it's wonderful that Glenn has offered to name the park in. I sort of maybe agree with Dennis, maybe talk, I don't know all the details, but maybe talk a little bit more about the future for it and what could be possible, but definitely appreciate he and Oliver's offers for funding. We're up against an increase in sales tax right now that's being funded by, the proposition's being funded by a group called Protect Our Legacy. They want to ask us for more money that they didn't handle properly in the first place to protect our legacy. Well, I would say this would be protecting our legacy. Voting to keep the parkland a park is protecting our legacy, not charging us more sales tax. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jessica Petty.
And before we start that public speaking, I just wanted to iterate that the consensus that I felt at the beginning of the meeting where I said that it seemed as if all of us were in support of the park was only from the open discussion that we've had in the commission meeting last month, and there was no discussion with the members outside of that meeting. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jessica Petty. I live in Encinitas Ranch. And I guess I'm here on behalf of the kids because I was here the other night about the meeting about putting the new apartment buildings in. And I don't see the point of building all these apartments and places for kids to live in affordable housing without giving them a place to play. I am a mom who lives right there, and these are my two kids, and then our friend Logan, who also lives on our street. And this morning, the boys had the day off school, and I said, what do you guys want to do? I'm like, we want to go to the beach. Okay, let's go to the beach. So we went to the beach for a couple hours. The waves were really flat. They swam for a while, but basically after a couple hours, wanted to go home. And they're like, oh, what should we do for the rest of the day? It was 10:30 in the morning. I'm like, what do you guys want to do? And they're like, oh, let's go to the pump track down in Del Mar. I'm like, all right. So I drove them all the way down there. It took about half an hour to get there. They were there for about 2 or 3 hours. They had a great time. And then we drove all the way home. And I was like, man, it would have been nice if we had something like this up in Encinitas. And anyway, so that's just some practicality of the kids, the teenagers don't have anywhere to go. You know, they bike around the neighborhood, but there's no, they can go to Olympus, but that's kind of far from our house. There's not that many places. There's the La Verde Park, but the playground there is for 5-year-olds. And then there's a grassy area. There's no place for them to have to do something fun. And anyway, so if you do, I hope, turn this into a park, build it into something like Olympus, but closer to us, maybe with a pump track or some kind of skate park, something for the teenagers to go, because there's going to be a lot of kids living there in these new affordable housing, and they're going to want to do something. And when kids don't have something, positive to go do, they look for trouble. So not all kids, but, kids get bored. So you got to give them something to do, someplace fun, and I hope that you'll turn this land into it. There's nowhere close for our kids to go. That's really fun for them to go and do. And this land is available, and you could turn it into something really great. So that's all I have to say. My kids are going to speak, though.
Our next speaker is Logan Seaman.
Hello, my name is Logan Seaman. I live in Encinitas Ranch on the same street as them. I love it there. But like we were just saying, it's very far away to go do something like a skate park that I love to go ride and go play at. I am a local skater, but I feel at the point when I go skating, it's not that local. My parents are usually busy most of the time. They work full time, and I feel like I have to bike a lot of places. And Olympus is close, but my parents don't feel comfortable with me biking there, and I think that that spot right there would be perfect for a new park and new land to be able to be so close and have a lot of fun there. Thank you guys so much. I hope you guys can change this and make this a park. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dane Petty.
All right, so obviously I am what's called a teenager, so I always am looking for something to do. Like my mom said, it was super far to have to go all the way up to Carmel Valley. It was probably like a 20-minute drive. And while it is fine to drive up there and do all that stuff, it would just be so nice to have a park that's just right there. My parents aren't worried about me going to like a trail, like how she also talked about nature. I think that like the animals are, I'm always hearing coyotes at night and they're always like in the back of our yards. And I'm just like, wow, that's actually kind of scary because we have 2 cats and a dog. And while our dog is pretty big and probably would not be eaten by a coyote, it would just be nice to have somewhere where they could go and where it doesn't really bother us as much and make us feel nervous. But yeah, also I'm always looking for something to do. Like right after we came back, we just went and we biked around the trails for a little while, and then we were like, okay, now what do we do? And I feel like sometimes, or a lot of the time, when kids don't know what to do and they don't have anything to do, they look through their phone. They go on their phone, and then they are sitting there for 2 or 3 hours just mindlessly scrolling, not remembering a single video or thing that they saw. So, yeah, I just think it would be amazing to have another area where we can just play. Thank you.
And our final speaker is Stephen Gergen.
Faster than the last time I talked to you guys, so I won't use up so much of your time. Yeah, progress is a good thing. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for hearing this continuation of the issue of Quail Gardens Park and the naming rights of it. Last time I said I would try and generate large community support for this project. I think if you look at the community public comments, you'll see that 40, 50 people have written in support of the park as part of that effort. I think you'll also saw that Oliver Pratt has brought in huge demonstrations of community support, both financially through golf balls and through the GoFundMe page. So I think as part of your determination, you can say that, yes, we saw that there was significant community support for Quail Gardens being a park. The other issue you asked us to address is the naming rights. And I think that Glenn Johnson's donation, for me, would I say $100,000 is significant? Yeah, it is. Would I say $15,000 to a 10-year-old boy is significant? Yes. You debated last time that there was no code or policy stating significance. So by those examples, I say that I think the contributions are significant. I think an important point for you to think about is that Glenn mentioned last time, and Glenn, you'll correct me and you can ask Glenn this, is that he hasn't set what the park is to be in stone. He's given some ideas. He's said that he's willing to negotiate, but no one's talked to him. And so if you feel that there's differences between what he says and what the park should be based on your visions of the community directions and needs, that you enter into that dialogue with him. but that doesn't stop you from saying that Glenn Johnson's donation isn't significant. And I think it is, and to me, the sum total of all of the efforts of the community support, both in numbers of people and in financial considerations, are significant. And I hope you consider that in your decision. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I would like to say on behalf of the commission, thank you so much to the community that has shown up not only here for 2 separate meetings as well as going to the city council, but also we received, like Steve mentioned, 30, 40, 50 different letters of support via email. So we certainly appreciate your interest, and we definitely hear you. There is strong support for making it a park. We are advocates for parks up here. I think the easy thing to do at this point is I'd like to make a motion to just deal with the first half of the question directed to us by City Council, and that is, should we make this land designated as parkland? And I would say that we should, and I'd like to be the first to motion that. Do I have a second?
Second.
So thank you very much. It was great to hear all of your voices. It's a somewhat obvious decision to us, being park lovers, that this is what we'd like to see. We've taken the opportunity to go out there and visit the land on site and to meet with several of you in person, and particularly with the development that we see happening in your area and how busy Quail Gardens is and continues to become more and more. It makes sense that we have some space for kids to play, for people to walk, to be able to spend some time in open space. So I strongly support the idea of using this land for park space. I would say that there are obviously competing interests in this land. We're the Parks and Rec Department. The City Council will be hearing from other committees that will perhaps offer a different view, and then it will obviously be up to the City Council to decide what they want to do from there. But from our commission standpoint and from our kind of realm of responsibility, we see this would be a beautiful addition to our parks network. Do any other commissioners have any comments on this first part?
Only one comment, that I didn't see any dissent on this in any of the literature that we saw.
And I agree with you. I did not see any dissent on anything that was sent to us. So it's has very strong support. So that's fantastic. Any other comments? Okay. Well, so that is great news. I think the room can be quite happy about what they're hearing there. The second half of that is the decision regarding the donation. I like Mr. Gherkin's suggestion that if there is some discrepancy as to how we think maybe the donation should or shouldn't be, that we open negotiations with Mr. Johnson. He's been somewhat flexible. Right now, what we have to work with is basically the email that you've sent to City Council is kind of the written offer. So obviously, everything's a little bit open to negotiations, and I think you're open to that. But at this point, I think what's important is to kind of look at what we have as a written offer, and then we can kind of discuss that a bit. I think when we look from hearing from staff, just doing some preliminary research, it seems that our named parks, like Leo Mullins, or Scotts Valley, or other things that you think might be a named park. We're actually named prior to our city incorporation, so back when the county ran things. So we don't really have a history or any type of precedent where we have accepted a donation and naming of a facility. And in recent memory, there was an opportunity to get some money for the Encinitas Library in exchange for naming rights, and the city had declined to do that at the time. So it is a bit of a new precedent, and that is something that I think is important to kind of consider, because although it is very generous, and it is something that maybe on first glance, it might just seem to be a no-brainer, but I do think that it can be one of those things where it can be a slippery slope into other issues that can create conflicts with regards to money and the public trust. Should, for instance, and I know that you're open to some negotiations, but should, because the city accepts a financial donation towards a park, should that donor be able to restrict usage or amenities on that land that the city owns without public comment, without the public actually getting involved in workshops to kind of discuss that? So although I may agree with you that it seems ideal for open space, I feel like it may not be appropriate for us to say, we'll accept your $100,000 and we'll agree that it will remain a passive park. I feel like the public is left out on that, and I really would want a little bit more, or actually a significant amount more of public interaction to see exactly what does the public want there. This is an extreme case, but you know how important pickleball is to the community right now. Everyone wants pickleball, and part of the challenge is not having spaces to put in courts. Obviously, there's a financial cost of putting those courts in, but if we say all of a sudden that, well, we can't put pickleball there because we've gone into an agreement because we accept a donation from an individual to help support that park, that we can't add that amenity. So I do have some reservations with regards to that. Mr. Gerken also kind of went back into what we were discussing earlier. When we look at the city's policy with regards to naming rights, there are several things that could be criteria for consideration. The only thing that this particular opportunity presents is under something called significant financial contribution for naming rights. So the question is, while $100,000, I agree, is a lot of money, but relative to what it's going to cost, which could be $5 million plus, I know it sounds crazy, but it costs a lot of money to even do a simple park. The question is that significant? And I think that that's one of those things that trips me up a little bit as to whether, when I put it in comparison to what the cost is, whether it's a significant amount. I would say that there are opportunities, again, in negotiation with Mr. Johnson, that if he was interested in perhaps naming opportunity of an amenity, like you had mentioned, perhaps a gazebo located there, that maybe that might be worthwhile. I would say that what I like is that the community is not only just sending in emails or showing up at commission or council meetings to say, hey, we really want this, but they're really putting skin in the game. They're going out and they're raising funds, or they're willing to donate money towards making this a reality. And we don't normally see that happen in city government. To me, as a commissioner, and I'm sure to the city council, that speaks to volumes in the sense of this is something the community really wants. So I would say that if donations can be a part of it, then I think that's going to make turning this land into not only a designation of a park, but also the creation of a park. That land has sat there for over 20 years. So in many of those years, it was under designation of a park land, but it never became one. And I would think that a lot of that was because they never dedicated any funds to making that reality happen. So when you come forward and you say, I am willing to donate this amount of money, or Oliver is out there raising $12,000, or you have a crowdfunding from your community that is supporting this, it makes that much more real. And I think that speaks a lot to what the city council would consider when it comes time to considering this as a capital improvement process. Changing that undeveloped land into an actual usable park is kind of a year-long process. It's going to be one of those situations where it will need to be added to the capital improvement budget, and for them to vote on whether it's going to meet the priorities to fund it. And normally on this type of thing, I think what they would first do is they would do studies that are required to get the necessary permitting to do something with it. So that process takes some time. So it's not something, unfortunately, that there's a magic bullet that, yes, we're all excited, it's going to happen immediately. It takes some time. But we're at this point where we have momentum going. And I think that's really important to kind of stay with that momentum. And I would say that donations and the support that you're showing right now can kickstart that process to happen. So I think you're doing a fantastic start. I would love to hear any other additional comments that the commissioners may have to that. Vice Chair Hansen?
I love the naming idea. I just don't think we have anything to name yet. So there's nothing we can act on. And I think our hands are tied on that. And that's really all I had to add to what you say.
I've got some thoughts. Looking at the policy, it says significant contribution. Now, obviously that's, I'm sure $100,000 is very significant here to Mr. Johnson. And I'm sure $12,000 is incredibly significant to the young man, Mr. Pratt. But I think the one contribution that they've both made is, which is more valuable, is getting everybody together to sit here today and tell us that we need to get off our butts and get this going in the right direction, because like you said, that property's been sitting there for a long time. But I also do hesitate I mean, like you mentioned before, pickleball. What if somebody came in here with $10 million and said, we want this all pickleball courts? What do we do then? What kind of precedent are we setting? So I'm really torn. I could see both sides of this, and I don't know. But like the co-chair said, there's nothing to name yet. But thank you for listening.
My vote to, agree that there should be a park was independent of any offer to donate money. And I think that's just the right thing to do. And all the speakers seem to agree, and all of the comments that were sent in seem to push that reality as well. I think it's unfortunate that it came to Mr. Johnson to take this leap of, we want to make this happen, so I'm going to make this significant offer. And I'm grateful for you for doing that and helping get your community together, as well as Mr. Pratt for all of his efforts. So that being said, I do think that there is a process, my understanding from paperwork that we've considered, for donating money and for requesting naming rights. And I don't think that that's something that we need to recommend. I know that the council has kind of asked us to review that, but it seems like in the materials they provided to us, there is already a mechanism think it was like F07 policy has to comply with certain policies, and there's applications to do that. So I just think it's not a ripe point, which both of you also mentioned. The other thing I'd say is don't stop advocating for this. I appreciate you being here, and I don't think this is the end of it. We voted to have this happen. It should have already happened 20 years ago or somewhere between now and then. But I'm sure there's more to this process, so don't stop asking for money and contributions, because obviously that's what the city council was reacting to. So those are my thoughts. Thanks.
First of all, I'd like to apologize to the commission and the citizens for me being late tonight. A regular meeting is on Tuesdays, and I had that in my head that it was on Tuesday. Luckily, Julie called me and informed me. I was on my way to the mayoral debate down at La Paloma, so I was in the neighborhood. So I apologize for being late. I would also like to note that maybe have it reflected in the minutes that I didn't get the opportunity to vote on the motion, but I am in support of making that land a park. I just wanted to maybe note that. I don't know if it can be in the minutes or the vote can be amended in the form of a motion or not, but I defer to you, Chairman.
Yes, that can be noted.
Okay. I just wanted to, first of all, thank everyone for being out here tonight, and also the emails that we received, the comments on this item. I'm glad we had an opportunity to continue it, so thank you, Chair, for continuing the item so we can continue to hear from the community, and then also have time for ourselves to think of this issue, because it's very important. Also, I wanted to thank you for splitting the item into two, so we can be very thoughtful about the two different issues at hand. As kind of mentioned by my peers, my concern that I have lies with setting, a precedent with a single item in regards to how the city has done business or has named parks and such in the past, and I want to make sure we're consistent with what we've done and not stray from that consistency.
I'm just really glad to be here tonight to see the vote move forward that we recommend to City Council to make this a park. So thank you all for coming. And also just maybe considering something for City Council is other cities have a naming donation structure already in place, like San Diego, Carlsbad, or San Marcos. Maybe they would like us to do some research and maybe formulate such structure so that there's not a precedent being set, that there's actually something more clear in place.
So then at this point, as we consider the second half of this issue, I would say that the commission seems to be somewhat in agreement that they're uncomfortable with the idea of naming the park as a memorial for the donation. I think that there is an opportunity for some discussions to be had with Mr. Johnson to see if there's something else that we might be able to do that would kind of appease both sides with regards to accepting a donation and then still kind of meeting his wants and desires with regards to memorializing his wife. I know that, and I know that this is more of a basic thing, but we have a system already in place with regards to park benches, but I would say on a donation as much as what you're speaking, that it's significantly more than what a park bench would normally be charged at. So I would say it would be worth discussing with the department to see if maybe there might be an opportunity of doing a larger amenity like the gazebo or something that's prominent in the park that we could name after your wife. And if that would be something that would be agreeable to you, I think that would be the best step forward based upon what I'm hearing from my fellow commissioners. So I think what I would recommend is making a motion that the commission recommends that the park not be named after the, as a memorial, and to go into negotiations with Mr. Johnson to see if we might be able to come to terms on some other options.
Could I make one more comment here?
Sure.
I'm reading the policy, which says applications for naming or renaming, as you mentioned, must be submitted to the city clerk. The applicant is, so is there a process to do this that we'd be circumventing? Could anybody answer that question?
Well, there is that policy, and you're reading the policy with regards to the...
And have we submitted an application to the city clerk for this?
He has, Mr. Johnson has provided an email as an offer to the city council and has actually met and has been at a city council meeting and presented the offer in person.
No, yeah, I understand. Okay. I just thought that there might be some internal city hall process that we're not aware of.
With recommending that it's premature and or not ripe to make a decision as to, or recommend whether to name the park after Mrs. Johnson or not. There are other criteria. There's a degree of community support, it's one of them. There's a lot of things that can and should be considered that we don't have enough information for. So I guess I just don't feel comfortable saying, we don't recommend naming it after Mrs. Johnson at this point. I mean, maybe technically that's true because we don't have enough information, but perhaps there's a better way to tell the city council that this is just not the right time for us to make this decision, would be my view.
I would say that the city council is looking for a recommendation. So in that sense, I think that, and of course, it will go up to vote, and whatever the vote ends up being is what we will end up recommending to city council. But at any rate, I think they are looking for a recommendation from us, and based upon what we know with regards to the city policy and the facts of the case, and then just how we feel with regards to what it might mean on accepting a donation requiring naming rights, as well as perhaps some restrictions on the park's use and amenities. Those are all things that I think are kind of on the table for discussion, and that the city council is looking for us as their advisory commission to provide some insight on.
I mean, I still just don't think we have enough information. I know we have the information we have right now, but if you're going to put that vote up, I'm going to have a hard time with like how I would vote up or down on that with the way it's phrased right now.
And then, do you have any recommendations with regards to how you might adjust the motion?
I would recommend that this is not the time to make it, to decide what to name a park that we haven't decided is a park yet. I mean, it seems like that's the common feeling up here. And I do think it's unfair for Mr. Johnson and his efforts to make it look like on paper, like we're not in favor of this. I think there's a lot of me that is in favor of it. I just don't think that right now it's fair for us to make that decision. So based on, I mean, the wording could just be that it's just not this is not the time for us to make a decision on the naming of a park that we don't know is being designated as a park yet.
It's not necessarily just the naming of the park, but it's the accepting of the donation, because the naming of the park is a condition of the donation. So the question is should the city council accept a donation of $100,000 in exchange for the naming rights and then also some restrictions regarding the amenities and use of the park. And my personal feeling is that one person who has the money shouldn't necessarily be able to dictate as to what city-owned land that would be used for a park should be used for, just because he has the financial resources to provide that. I feel like the public needs much more involvement in deciding those things, along with park staff, because I think that park staff is also going to be a valuable component of understanding what's possible. So I just kind of feel like I don't want to handcuff us to certain criterias just because somebody provided some money for the park. I think we're all in agreement that we want the park. It's just that the question is do we like the conditions that are tied to the donation? Commissioner Quinn?
Mr. Chairman, the $12,000 or so of golf balls collected by that young fellow, where would that money be earmarked for? I mean, what was the intention of that as far as that land becoming a park?
I have not been in communication with him, and I'm not sure if staff has either with regards to that whole process. There are a couple options. One, the funds can be provided to the city directly. Two, there's a nonprofit that Chair Hansen and I are currently working on reinvigorating that is designed strictly to provide an opportunity for citizens to provide financial resources to help bridge the funding gap that the city has in their parks and recreation. So that might be an opportunity as well. It would also be more of an opportunity for getting a tax deduction for any of the donation because we're a nonprofit. So those are all kind of discussions to be determined, but at this point, there's not a lot of clarity on it. And is there anything from the staff side that you might want to say at all regarding our current conversation? Anything to add as we kind of discuss this?
I think you guys are on the right track, and just up to you guys to determine a motion and how you want to proceed.
Chair, how about rephrasing what the recommend action language is, and maybe that will help. Maybe something along the lines that the naming of a park at the city property, et cetera, based on the gift being made has been considered, but at this time, we are recommending, something pulled directly from the language. I don't know if that would create some comfort for my fellow commissioners on structuring how we're responding.
Another comment here, and maybe it's Mr. Norgard, thank you for your input. I almost feel like he let me off the hook on this because he said, well, you're just making a recommendation. I mean, we're not making a commitment, we're not signing a contract. The city council wants to know how we feel about this, which makes, maybe we're too deep in the weeds, maybe it's more of a thumbs up, thumbs down, but I certainly wouldn't want to stop anything now at this point. So maybe just correct me if I'm walking into the woods here.
You're 100%. We're purely a citizen advisory committee in the sense that we'll provide recommendations to the council, and of course, they can either listen to us or not listen to us. They may pull certain things that they like and include it, and maybe disregard other things. So we're basically just another voice for them to hear and also a platform for the citizens to come and speak and give their opinions and thoughts. So yes, it is one of those things where just because, for instance, if we say we don't want to do naming rights, the city council can easily say, well, we'll do it. It's fine. We don't care. So we're mainly just recommending based upon how we feel. They're the ones that will make the decision. So with regards to a motion, what are other commissioners' thoughts with regards to the idea of declining the naming rights? Is that something that you feel, well, I won't put words in your mouth. Any thoughts on that?
I like what Commissioner Avers said about using the language and maybe just saying that we decline at this time.
Decline.
The offer.
Okay.
Naming rights.
I would like to put something in the motion because I don't want it to seem like we're closing the door, because I think Mr. Johnson's very willing to negotiate, and I'd love to keep a open communication with him and the other community members. So I want to make sure that our motion is such that it leaves the door open for additional considerations that hopefully will happen after this meeting. So, you know, we've already basically said that we think it should be a park. So I think the next, the last little bit of it here is just we, you know, maybe the motion should be something to the sense that we would be interested in further negotiations with Mr. Johnson on his donation offer, but at this time we recommend not to accept naming rights as part of the deal. So we basically would take naming rights off the table, but let's leave the negotiations open to discuss other options. I think the only other part of it, and you know, I think a more passive use would be great. There might be other people that feel differently. I don't necessarily say I would be 100% that, yes, I think passive use is the only thing that seems right there, because I could also hear from some people and they're like, well, I think we could do this and it wouldn't be too intrusive. So I would say I also don't like to restrict usage of the park either. So that's the little challenge for me, and I don't like when money gets involved in making decisions that really the whole community should be involved in deciding. So, and I think that there's been a lot of interest from the community that has shown up here to have a more passive park, but it's not. I know that these are also people that are living right in the immediate area, and there may be other citizens that might feel a little bit differently. So I would say, you know, I would say that the motion for me would be something to the fact that we recommend further negotiations with Mr. Johnson on his donation, and that we are not in favor of naming rights for the park or park usage restrictions and park usage and amenities restrictions based on the financial contribution. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think that sounds great. Can we add potentially one point of clarification, is that negotiations with is there a certain body, like, is it with city council or negotiations per the policy outlined regarding naming
Yeah.
rights process? Because then it kind of outlines, we don't necessarily have that authority, right, to negotiate at this level. So it kind of clarifies a path also outside of us.
I was going to make that same point. Like, where does he go to open the negotiations?
Manager Norgard, would that be something that he would work with Parks and Rec staff on to maybe develop some opportunity there, or would that be something he needs to work more with perhaps the city manager?
So, giving my opinion here is, after you send the recommendation to City Council, the discussion that is City Council and Mr. Johnson, and there may be a designee for that. Currently, that's not a point at Park and Recreation. That would go back to City Council.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, I don't want to throw the wrench in here again, but I really would like this worded, in a way, because I think I'm kind of leaning for a thumbs up here. So if I do vote against the motion you had, it's not for the reasons that it would sound like. Does that make sense?
And tell me a little bit more.
Like I said, I think we're just giving a recommendation to the city council. I think I'd like to, at this point, give a thumbs up to this, but it doesn't seem that motion would allow me to vote one way or another to do that. Because with the limited motion that you had, I'd be voting against it, but it would really seem like I'm trying to put the brakes on this. But that really...
And then how might you adjust, and I know it's hard when you don't see it
Well,
all
I'm just
written in
looking,
writing, but...
I guess I'd return to the original question. Well, like I said, I'm trying not to be difficult, but let me think about that for a second. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank here, guys. Sorry, I'm kind of new at this. I'm the freshman commissioner here.
So I'm just writing this off the cuff, but recommend that City Council enter into negotiations with Mr. Johnson for his donation without naming rights and park usage and amenities restrictions.
So then, just to clarify, so a yay vote would be then supporting the continued discussions with the city and Mr. Johnson, but that we are not making the decision at this time for the naming rights.
The way I would take this particular motion is that we recommend not awarding naming rights in exchange for the donation, nor would we recommend that park usage and amenities have restrictions to them in consideration for his donation. I feel like there's some middle ground, and right now, the things that we currently are looking at, I don't feel like we're there on that middle ground, and I feel like there needs to be some discussion as to what might work. But I do kind of feel like I don't think that one individual should be able to decide for the public what the city should do with their parkland. So how are we feeling on that recommendation? Any edits to it?
Did you say as part of those two, like, recommend not naming the park based on the donation, and that donation should not be contingent on the specificities of the park. Well, you said it better. But was there added to that we also recommend that the council continue with further discussions with Mr. Johnson as to his flexibilities and his donation? Because I think that's what he said, and it's flexible in the type of park. And
Right.
naming.
So what I had written, and again, open, and it's so hard, I know, when you only hear it, but recommend that City Council enter into negotiations with Mr. Johnson for his donation without, and I could say without awarding naming rights and park usage and amenity restrictions. Or, or you could say, enter in negotiations with Mr. Johnson for his donations, period. We could say naming rights and park usage and many restrictions, or with that we feel that naming rights and park usage and amenity restrictions shouldn't be considered for in consideration for the donation.
Based
Let
upon
me see if I,
the-
so the first part I get, and I think the second part saying, but the Parks Commission has serious concerns about doing a precedent here and doing some type of exchange for money for a park name. So can we just express our concerns to the city council and let them work on,
And the city council.
So recommend continuing negotiations, but then enumerate our concerns that this hasn't been done before. This might be a precedent. We might live to regret this in the future.
Well, that's on the record.
And I know that some of the city council members actually will be reviewing this meeting to look into some of the pros and cons of things. And I do hear your point, and I spoke with Manager Norgard as to the exact procedure of how does it get communicated to city council. Is it merely that we've made a motion and then the motion is then sent to city council and it's placed on their consent calendar, or whether it's something where it actually becomes something that the city council hears in person, whether it's me appearing on behalf of the commission and expressing the views that you all have shared here. So what we had kind of landed on at this point is that we were going to work it based upon a motion, and then if it was needed, that I could appear at the city council to also present the findings of the commission. So kind of circling back again regarding the actual wordage of the motion, I think that the first thing is that we're recommending the city council enter into negotiations with Mr. Johnson regarding his donation. So maybe just period that. And then we could just say, commission a commission disagrees with awarding naming rights and park usage and amenity restrictions in exchange for a financial contribution.
That sounds good.
So,
I was going to say, or does not recommend.
Certainly. So commission does not recommend awarding naming rights and park usage and many restrictions in consideration for a financial contribution.
I'm sorry. So I'm hearing like three things. I think I would be for voting on it. One, to answer the council's request of us, is we don't recommend awarding naming rights at this time. And then number two, that the council continue to discuss Mr. Johnson's donation and his request for naming rights. And then the third thing, what we just mentioned about we're not comfortable accepting donations in exchange for, you had better language for that.
So I kind of feel like maybe the recommendation regarding the city council enter negotiations with Mr. Johnson be put towards the end. So what maybe we'd start, the motion is the commission does not recommend awarding naming rights and park usage and amenity restrictions in consideration for a financial contribution. However, we do recommend that the city council enter into negotiation with Mr. Johnson regarding his donation for other possibilities. Opportunities. Are we happy with that? Do I have a motion to approve that?
Yeah, I'll move.
And a second?
I'll second. Thanks for listening.
Absolutely, and thank you for all your input. We make better decisions when we all participate, so it's great to hear all the voices. And thank you again, Mr. Johnson. I hope that you will certainly still consider to donate. I regret that we can't do exactly what you want, and I am excited that we're all with you, that there is a park that we want there, just like you do, and I hope that you'll consider still donating to the cause, because I really do feel like if there's money in the game, there's a lot more chance that something's going to happen with that land, and I would love to see that turned into a park for you and the people that live around there. So, all right, so that concludes that particular agenda item. Let's move on to the next section, which is our work plan. And we have 25 minutes, so we'll try to get through it as quickly as we can. I do know that we have a few major items to discuss on the work plan. We're basically done with number one, so perhaps the ad hoc will go ahead and work with park staff to go ahead and update the language in the projected outcomes column, since we're done there. Item number two, we do have the holiday parade coming up. Could the ad hoc go ahead and brief the commission as to what our current status is and where we are with regards to the holiday parade application?
Yeah, I'll speak to that. So I did send around some requests for clarification. One was whether or not there needed to be a discussion with the full commission as to what we were going to do for the parade versus just ad hoc, and I didn't get an answer to that. And then I had the other question, which was, is it just the commissioners that are in the parade, or is it also some staff that's part of our efforts in that? But we did throw around some ideas, and so I guess that's if it's something that we needed to vote on collectively, or if you're just going to say ad hoc, tell us what to do, then we'll go forward.
I would be more inclined to ad hoc, tell us what to do, and go for it. Particularly because I don't see my name in that column.
Yeah.
So, yes, I would say that sounds great. I would also, Yes, make it so. And then with regards to your other question, it is just the commissioners. Normally, the staff is pretty busy running the parade, so it'll just be us. But the staff will certainly help us with banners or some supplies, that type of thing. So, but I think the important thing to do at this point is getting the application filled out. So if you'll reach out to Manager Norgard, he can help you with that process.
Okay, we'll do.
Manager Hamer, real quickly, I just wanted to note there are commissions that have their family or partners that also join them.
Oh.
So that could be for consideration. The senior commission, I know, has partners that join them.
That's good to know. Okay.
And maybe that might be just something to throw out right now. How does the commission feel about inviting your partner's spouses to participate? Because I think that adds to what the ad hoc's going to be doing.
December.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just consider that as an open opportunity.
Clarification on that, it's spouses and, my kids are all grown and live around the world, but children of
Sure.
commissioners?
That sounds good to me.
Okay, thank you.
How about immediate family? How's that? An immediate family or someone you're dating or, we're pretty open, loose, whatever you guys want to do. If they're fun and great partiers, let's go ahead and invite them. So, anything else to discuss on that particular item? All right, so we'll move on to the guest speakers. We do have BCK programs scheduled to speak next month in November, and I'm just waiting for confirmation from them. Regarding the volunteer promotion and recruitment, any update on that work plan item? Okay. Regarding number 5, the adult fitness equipment, I am extremely happy to report that we finally have a date for the CPP meeting, and it will be not only for the athletic equipment, but also for playground replacement. So on November 7th, at Wero Park, November 14th at Glen Park, November 21st at Orpheus Park, and it's going to be 6 to 8 p.m. in the Poinsettia Conference Room here at City Hall. So basically, that will be the opportunity for the community to review the plans and provide their input. So we are finally at the next step, so I'm excited about that. Number 6, this is an important item that I want to make sure that we give some time to. For a couple reasons. One, the rules is really important, and 2, I'd like to get a memo put together by the ad hoc that they could present at the November meeting to kind of describe what their thoughts are regarding the removal of a tennis pickleball court at Moonlight Beach. And then I'd like if you guys could present that to the commission so that we could discuss it with the entire commission, because that is something that we'd like to wrap up in this particular work plan year. And considering that we're not going to be here in December, it really only gives us January and February to kind of finalize. So if we could kind of make that as a goal, that would be great. But if I could also hear from the ad hoc as to kind of where they're at and if there's any particular needs that they have, it would be great to just get an update.
Well, I think we need to do a lot more data research before we make any formal recommendations. So we've got to get going on doing some research.
And when you say research, are you thinking public outreach, or what are you thinking?
Observation. Just see what's happening at Cottonwood and see if they've got a legitimate gripe, they being the pickleball players, and considering what the impact of making it tennis only at Moonlight.
Well, I think the other question too that's on there is, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping around a bit, but the other question that I was kind of driving at is basically the council-directed one regarding removing the court at Moonlight, and then maybe putting a replacement court at Cottonwood Creek. It might be worthwhile for the ad hoc to maybe even go out to Cottonwood and with a tape measure and just kind of see what kind of space do you have there. You know, there are a few options there. You know, when we were there during the park tour, we saw that there was kind of that space in the basketball area, but that could also mean losing that as an amenity. And what would that mean? And would it be something that would the community prefer to lose that amenity in exchange for having pickleball? So it is one of those things where it's a difficult topic, and it's a kind of a difficult ask that the city council has kind of thrown at us. I would say, though, that in our response to them, we can certainly put in some caveats. You know, first of all, we're not park designers, so it's mainly just kind of giving you a general recommendations. I think that the challenge you'll find is if we put 12 courts in at ECP, and then you ask, is it okay if we get rid of the court at Moonlight? People will still be like, no, we still want that one too. So, you know, it is one of those things where there's a lot of different ways of looking at it, and it's kind of hard to get your hand around it. So I can certainly appreciate that, but it is something that I think it's important for us to wrap up some type of recommendation to City Council.
So no problem. I think that's a good idea for the ad hoc to just provide some memorandum of where we're at. And it is based on talking to people and emails that come in, obviously. My other thought, though, would be before we wrap up in February, before a change of the guard, so to speak, to make an agenda item for such a vote so that the public is aware that we're going to be considering a recommendation for rules, like court usage rules, and whether Moonlight is going to be recommended to be taken out of commission. It sounds like that's where the future is going with how they're going to use that. But and if we're going to recommend that more courts be provided at ECP. So if that's something that we're going to, as an ad hoc, provide to the commission to consider, wouldn't it also be appropriate for that to be an agenda item, I suppose, for the public to be able to provide comment?
Well, I would say that it's already on the agenda in the sense that it's in our work plan, and they can make any public comments and related, you know, when we come to that work plan item, then they can certainly speak to it separately, just like we did on the item here with the park usage. But it is a matter of communicating to the pickleball community, the tennis community, that we are talking about these things.
Mr. Chairman, so to be clear, for your request for November is for the ad hoc to come up with a recommendation for Moonlight and Cottonwood and set aside the ECP issue for the time being?
Well, the ECP issue, for the way I understand kind of where we're at, is completely separate and unrelated in the sense that we've basically provided that study to City Council, or the staff has, and at this point, the City Council will consider that when it comes time for capital improvement program budgets. I think the way I look at it, you know, you have a lot, this ad hoc has a really huge workload, as I look at it, you know, because it's not only kind of dealing with that whole decision about the Moonlight court, but then it's also the rules. And I think, if anything, the rules are probably more important in the sense of the community, but yet we're also been directed by City Council to provide input regarding the moonlight option. So I also think that the rules, it's more of an immediate thing. The moonlight issue is more pie in the sky. It's one of those things that's going to, again, involve a capital improvement budget item to finance not only removing the court from there and restoring it to wetlands, but then also the cost of putting a pickleball court or more somewhere else. So that's much more long-term, but I would say the short-term thing is trying to work out some of the rule ideas. It might be also worthwhile for the ad hoc to visit some of our local sister communities that have different rules of play, just to see how that seems to be working and maybe get some input from observations that you get from those courts. And I think Manager Norgard could maybe give you some directions as to the courts in our sister communities that have that type of play.
Yeah, Manager Norgard has already given us some recommendations, Vista and I believe Poinsettia. Yeah, so we have the addresses, and
Okay.
we just need to get up there.
Okay. And I would also say what I would love to hear from the ad hoc is not like a definitive answer in November, but I would love to hear kind of what you're finding, and then maybe some just general discussion that we can have as an entire commission that that we can at least open the discussion, and then perhaps throw around some other ideas as an entire commission rather than just the ad hoc. So I think, prioritizing and figuring out what you want to work on, and then getting as much as you can done prior to the November meeting, and then we can have some discussions and continue to kind of refine the way we're going to wrap up this particular outcome. Are there any other questions or comments on that particular work plan item? We got about 10 minutes left, so, okay, great. Just real quick for fun, Manager Norgard, if you might just pop up those photos I emailed you. Julie and I had fun. We went to movie night. There we are, the Parks and Rec pop-up park. We got the sign and the banner going there. And the next slide. So we, the Parks and Rec department brought one set, and I had like a little junior set, the smaller cornhole set there that I had at home. So I went ahead and brought that, and they got lots of good usage. So you would think, as much as I played, that I would have gotten better, but I think I'm just as bad as I was from the beginning. But there were some good throwers out there, and they were in much better costumes than my Park and Rec shirt. And then one more slide, and that basically kind of shows the movie night, which was a fun success. They played Scooby-Doo and Scooby the movie, and I'm sure Manager Hammer will have more to say on that, and I don't want to steal her thunder, but yes, we had fun doing it, and we also had a senior commissioner that participated in our booth as well. So it was great to interact with the community. Moving on to, did you have any additional comments on that? I kind of spoke, okay. And then the Parks Master Plan with regards to trails, any comments from that ad hoc? Any
Yeah,
activity?
I just wanted to update. Staff has connected the ad hoc to the Trails Coalition, and we're meeting tomorrow to get input from them. Or Wednesday. Sorry.
Thank you.
What day is it?
All right, fantastic. Super. Well, perhaps you all have even more to report in November on that. Don't really have anything new to say regarding Harbor Seaside Parkway, unless Vice Chair Hansen had something to say. I know you were working with him still. Okay. And then Did you want to provide any input on the next one with regards to the nonprofit? We have a name, but we can't tell you yet.
Yeah, we can't tell you. It's all a secret. We did meet as a board. We've got a board of five.
Five.
Or six. Yeah. We've
We have
got
5 people now.
3 more board members in addition to the 2 of us. And I think people that have a great background are willing to help get this thing launched. We're really close on a mission statement. And then after that, I think we're going to figure out our why and go get it.
Yeah.
But I think we've been making some progress the last couple of months.
Yeah, I would say that I'm really excited about the board. I think there are some well-connected go-getters that will be a tremendous asset to enhance our arts, parks, and recreation. And I'm excited to get it going even more. But we're working on logo design. We're finalizing a mission statement, taking care of a few little administrative issues. And then we're also going to work on finalizing our MOU with the city of Encinitas as well, so that it all just works perfectly. Number 11, I feel like I've been talking a lot. Would one of the other ad hoc members like to say anything regarding number 11, the bylaws?
I think we're almost done. I think we're going to pass around another draft. We've met. And yeah, I don't think we reinvented the wheel, but I think we're pretty close, and I'm sure we'll be able to deliver updated bylaws before the end of our season, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we've come quite a long ways. I think we got some great input. Manager Hallmeyer has something.
Manager Hamer here. I just wanted to note the Senior Citizen Commission has submitted their bylaws as well. So if you want to run it by staff before taking it to the commission, it does have to go to the director and be approved by the city attorney before it goes to the full commission. So from the ad hoc, it would move up. But there's some changes that were updated that I think we could pretty quickly scan and just make sure you're aligned with that level of steps to help you move along the way. But it can't go to the full commission until director and city attorney also approve it.
Oh, well, thank you for bringing that up. That's new information. We do have a meeting on November 6th with staff to kind of review our current draft. I would say it's not finalized, but it certainly is something that we'll be able to incorporate that input and go from there. So good to know. Any other comments from the ad hoc on that? Okay, great. So then we have added a new work plan item, number 12, the naming and possible future uses for the city land located at the northeast corner of Highway 101 and La Costa Avenue, formerly known as Surfers Point. Not that we can say that any longer, but that's the area. So I was interested in knowing what commissioners, in addition to myself, might be interested in participating in that ad hoc.
I'm interested.
Okay. And we can have 3. Okay. And so we have a full ad hoc at this point. Was there anyone else that had a dying interest in being involved in that one? Okay. So we're in Hanson. Kimberly. Okay, great. So we'll go ahead and meet together. This is, and I'm happy that that you went ahead and joined, because what I'd like to see is that this ad hoc is going to be something that's going to continue into next year, and it's also going to be a process that's going to be lasting for a few years. It's going to take 4 years until NCTD gets off the property, doing the double track. So I think having a young commissioner that hopefully will be here for 2 terms, I'm committing you, to kind of carry that torch would be fantastic. So, so great. So we'll touch base and work on bringing that together. Again, that's kind of that's going to be a project that there's going to be a lot of involvement, a lot of community outreach. We may be doing some special meetings to meet with the community, the tribal community, as well as the community at large. So I think it's an exciting project, and I think it will be great for the ad hoc as well as the full commission to work on. I would say that since we only have 2 minutes left, I just would like to make a quick motion that we extend the meeting by 10 minutes so that we could get our parks and recreation updates. Can I have a motion to extend the meeting by 10 minutes?
Motion to extend.
Second.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and take a manual vote because there's no item about that.
Okay.
So Chair Reader?
Aye.
Vice Chair Hansen? Aye. Commissioner Capiello?
Aye.
Commissioner Kamarat?
Aye.
Commissioner Evers?
Aye.
Commissioner Quinn? And Commissioner Vander Auer? All right, the meeting has been extended 10 minutes.
So at this point, we're done with the Parks and Rec work plan. If we could then move on to the operations report. Manager Norgard?
It'd be really awkward right now if I didn't have an update, right?
That'd be a good one.
Just a couple quick things tonight. We released a request for proposals for the next phase of the Habitat Stewardship Program on October 9th. That closes on November 1st. That will add services for the Saxony Road site and then continue on maintenance at the other sites. The ECP Dog Park closed on October 7th. That'll open again on November 5th. And on October 16th, council approved the construction contract for the Scott Valley Park Playground Replacement Project. We are finalizing that contract with the contractor now, and we should have a schedule update pretty soon. So this gets us much closer to completing a project that's been a couple years in process and has been really a lot of fun to work on. So look forward to more updates on that. That concludes my report.
Thank you. And Manager Hammer?
Well, a special thank you to Chair Ross and Commissioner Vander Auer for their enthusiastic participation, hosting that pop-up park city table, as well as their role as judges for the Movie in the Park costume contest. It was a super great time with the Scooby-Doo crew, Mystery Maze games, face painting, karate demonstrations from Kick Force, as well as thrilling interactive experiences for all ages. We were fortunate to have the support of 4 generous sponsors: grocery outlets, Kick Force, Mathesium, and Cardiff 101. Our special events supervisor has done a great job of bringing on new sponsors, and it really enhances everything that we have to offer. We also are hosting a Dias de los Muertos with the Encinitas Library on Friday, November 1st. That's 3:30 to 6:30 p.m. It's free, and there will be art projects and performances from Ballet Folklorico, de San Guido, and that will be at the Encinitas Library. The art night is Saturday, November 16th. We still have 2 VIP volunteer shifts open from 7 to 8:15 if you're interested. It's a citywide event, free for everybody. We have a free shuttle that will feature the visual, performing, cinematic, and literary arts to enjoy, and that's at the Community Center, Library, City Hall, as well as some partner studios. Our activity guide is under production right now and will be distributed on Saturday, November 30th, with winter registration opening on Monday, December 2nd. The Parks and Recreation presentation of the Nutcracker is moving this year. It'll be December 14th, but this year it's at San Diego Academy Performing Arts Center. Previously, it was at our community center, and they kind of outgrew the space. And of course, last but not least, that holiday parade theme is Creativity in Motion, Saturday, December 7th. And we're excited about you and your significant others joining us, and we're happy to help and support however needed. Thank you.
And thank you. Real quick on the activity guide, is that also including Pacific View classes?
definitely, Pacific View is going to be integrated in all the different age categories. So you'll have adults, youth. So all the arts programs and classes will be integrated into the full guide. I know the fall one, it was separate, but this winter season, it will all be integrated into one full guide that has one registration platform and one guide. Yeah, it will not be separated.
Fantastic. And did we end up getting extended hours for additional class instruction at the Pacific View? Do you know?
I believe in 2025, the hours may be extended, but I don't have complete confirmation on that.
Okay.
I'm not aware.
Great.
We'll let you know.
All right, let's move on to the other agenda items. Thank you very much for your reports. Very much appreciated. I don't think we have either 10 or 11. Is that correct, Mr. Fisher? Okay, great. So let's do a commission roundtable. We'll start at the end.
Thanks. I don't have a lot, just thanks for all the support we get from staff. I really appreciate that.
Just real quickly, looking forward to ad hoc meeting at Champagne Bakery, and I'll be submitting an expense report for that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Nothing for me.
Thanks for listening to my ramblings. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I enjoyed the discussion today, and I think you're right that it helps if we put the time in that's needed to get things right and say them right if we're making recommendations. That's what our mandate is, so I appreciate you all for contributing to that.
I very much appreciate your ramblings, because that's what we're here for. Yeah. It just seems like we got so much going, but it feels like we haven't really been together much, so some of our ad hocs need to pick up some of the slack, including the pickleball courts. I felt a lot of pressure on that. And thanks to you guys, everything's working. Congratulations on your movie night. But everything's good, thanks.
I would second everything you guys said. You're a great team to work with. I would first of all like to again congratulate Manager Hammer on another successful movie night. It's always great to volunteer at our events. It's always so fun, and you can really see the community appreciates it. I would say too that we have a really heavy schedule on list of things to do, and this I've been on the commission for 4 years, and this is by far the most work that we've ever had to do. So it's an unusual year, and I'm glad that you guys are stepping up to make the most of it and get through it. So I know it's a bit time consuming and there's a lot to do, but I certainly appreciate all of your efforts. And they're complicated and complex issues. And so I'm happy that you guys are participating in the discussion, and it is one of those things that when we all share our voice, that I think that we come to a better decision because of it. So my last comment too is just I'd like to say that Manager Nargard is our liaison to the commission, and I work closely with him on preparing for these meetings and other things that the commission does, and I would just like to recognize all the great advice and assistance that you provide so that we can be as effective as a commission as possible. So thank you. With that, it's 7:35, and I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.